Hello everyone, it's me again. Alright, so we did a lot of stuff this past couple weeks dealing with equations, but we're going to kind of move on a little bit, get past equations. And we're going to work into a little bit of geometry. Now geometry is the study of shapes and things like that, so we're going to be talking about some of the geometry. And one of the main things that you guys need to understand about geometry in 8th grade is the Pythagorean theorem. You may say, Pythagorean theorem, that's a big old word. You're right, it is. But I need to explain the formula for the Pythagorean theorem. I also need to explain how you use the Pythagorean theorem. All right, so when do we use and why do we use the Pythagorean theorem? Well, first of all, what the theorem says, the Pythagorean theorem states that if you have a right triangle, and this only works with right triangles. And a right triangle means you have a triangle that has one right angle. Okay? For example, if you have a triangle that looks like so. That is a right triangle. Now, what makes it a right triangle? You have one right angle. Okay? So that makes it a right triangle. And when you have a right triangle, you can use the theorem. Well, what's the theorem used for? The theorem is to find the missing sides, okay? Like, let's say you have a side right here. Let's say this leg right here is an 8, okay? And let's say this leg down here, let's say it's a 6. And what we want to do is we want to figure out what is that side right there. Well, you can't just, measure and this and that. I mean, technically you could if you had everything written perfectly, but there's a simpler way. It's called the Pythagorean theorem, and let me show you what it states. The Pythagorean theorem states that if you take side A and you square it and you add it to side B and you square it, what you're going to equal is side C when you square it. So what it is A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Okay? Now, that's really not that hard to remember. All right? Once again, let me say it again. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. That is the Pythagorean theorem. Now, you may think, well, what's A, what's B, what's C? You just got numbers and a question mark. Well, let me show you. A and B really doesn't matter because these two numbers can flip around, right? It's not going to change. If you go A plus B or B plus A, it doesn't matter. What matters is your C. You need to know how to find your C. Now, your C is a special side. It's called the hypotenuse. And what the hypotenuse is, it is the longest side. So what we got here, you got to find C. C is the, and I'm going to write it down so you all know, hypotenuse. Okay? And what that is, what the hypotenuse is, once again, it is the longest side. Okay? The hypotenuse is going to be the longest side. So, in looking at our triangle, okay, you look and say, okay, well, maybe you think the longest side is 8. Maybe you think it's a question mark. Maybe if somebody's blind, they might think it's a 6, okay? But how do we know for sure? The way we know for sure is this. It's a little trick that I use, okay? I love this trick. It's what I like to do. I look for my 90-degree angle box. Boom, right there. You see it? And what I do is I go to the corner. This vertex is this property called. Okay, we go to this vertex right here. And what I do is I'm going to draw a line straight across this vertex. And what does it hit? It hits this line right here. That means that this side right here is going to be my C. So that's what I'm missing. I'm missing C. All right? So we're going to take these two sides and we're going to plug it into our formula. So let's take a look at this now. Let's do it slowly. Look at this. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Now, what are we looking for? We're looking for C. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take my C and I'm going to bring it down. Because I don't know what it is. So why am I going to try to mess around with it? I'm just going to bring C down. Next, I got an A and a B. Which one's A, which one's B? like I said before, if you're missing, if you have A and B, it doesn't matter which one's A or which one's B. So I'm just going to I don't know, just because, I'm going to say this one's A and I'm going to say this one's B. Now, if you put B here and A here, don't matter. It's going to be exactly the same answer. All right? So let's take a look. What's my A? 8. So I'm going to put 8 here and I'm going to square it. Okay? Then I'm going to put the plus sign down. What about B? There's B. B we said is equal to 6. So we're going to put a 6 here and we're going to square it. Now we got a square. All right? So if we look, 8 to the second power, that is 8 times 8. 8 times 8 is 64. So I'm going to put a 64 right here. Look at this. Boom. 64. Plus. Now I got 6 squared. 6 times 6, 36. Put that down here. And that's all going to equal C squared. We don't know what C is yet. All right? Now the next thing we're going to do, now after we do this, we have to add these two numbers up. Now what's 64 plus 36? Some of y'all may be thinking, boy, those numbers, I don't know, too big. Write them down. 64 plus 36. If you add these up, you're going to get, that's 10, carry the 1. 3 plus 6 is 9, plus 1 is 10. Look at that, 100. So I'm going to put right down here, 100 equals C squared. Right? Now, some of y'all may be smiling saying, oh, that was easy, and you're going to circle it and think you got the answer. Guess what? You don't. This is not the answer. We're looking for C, not C squared. So what we need to do is we need to figure out a way to get rid of the square that's on the C. Well, how do we do that? Okay, what we need to do is we need to undo an exponent of 2. Well, in order to undo an exponent of 2, what you need to use is an operation that I love. Okay, it's called the square root. All right, it's called the square root. So what we're going to do is to get rid of this squared on this C, what we have to do is we have to square root this C squared, and that'll get rid of the square. So watch, we're going to square root around the C squared. Now if you look, the square root and the square, okay, what they do is they cancel each other out. But we can't just square root one side of an equation. What we do to one side of the equation, we need to do to the others. You know what we have to do? We got to square root the 100 as well. Now, I already said that the square and the square root are going to cancel out. Look at that. They're gone. So we're left with C, and that's all going to equal. Now, what's the square root of 100? Okay. Now, some of y'all, I know some of you out there saying, well, it's 50, obviously. 100 divided by 2 is 50, but we're not dividing by 2. We're square rooting. When you square root, what you do is you think of a number that multiplies by itself. So it has to be both the same numbers is going to equal 100. So what number multiplies by itself to equal 100? 10. So you got a 10 here. So your answer is going to be 10 equals C. And that's it. 10 equals C. So what you're looking for, that C that you were looking for up here, you can erase that question mark because we know what it is. It's 10 because C equals 10. All right. Now, I don't know, it looks kind of messy up here. Hope nobody got lost. But if you did, it's okay because what we're going to do is we're going to do another one right now. Okay. Now, here we go. Let's go ahead and let's do this other one. Now, I'm going to leave this up here for the notes. All right. All right. So here we go. What if we got one that looks like this? Oh my goodness. Look at this. It's going to be fun. Look, it's going to look a little different too. Look at that. Goes like this all the way across there. You got this little guy right here. I'm talking about a 7 on this side and an 11 on this side. All right. Now, what do you think here, folks? Let's take a look. What do you think we are missing? Which side are we missing? A, B, or C? Because remember, we have to use all these sides. We got to plug it into our formula, which once again is A squared plus B squared equals C squared. All right? So what do you think? Look at it now. Does anybody remember the trick that I just showed you? Now, if you think of the trick that I showed you, I told you that what we're supposed to do is start at this vertice right here, right? And we draw a line straight across the vertices. And it's going to look like this. And when we draw a line to this side, what side is this? If once we draw that line across the vertices, what side do we hit? We always hit the hypotenuse, which is C. Okay? So we hit the hypotenuse, which once again is C. Now, so we're going to take this information and plug it into our formula. Now, somebody tell me, look at your work and ask yourself, which one's A, which one's B? Does it matter? No, it doesn't matter. Okay? So I'm going to say, let's just say this is going to be A just because I want to, and let's say this is B. Okay? Now, so we're going to take this information now and we're going to plug it into our formula. So watch. We don't know what C is, so I'm going to bring C just down. C squared equal. All right? Now, we said that A is equal to 7, so I'm going to put 7 here squared. And I said that B is equal to 11. I'm going to put 11 squared here. Now, let's go ahead and let's get rid of those squares, right? 7 squared. Anybody know what 7 times 7 is? 49. So we put a 49 here plus 11 times 11. Anyone know 11 times 11? 121. Okay, and that's all going to equal C squared. Now, what we're going to do next is now we're going to have to add these two numbers up right here. 49 plus 121. Boy, that's a toughie. Let's figure it out. 121 plus 49. That's going to be a 10, 170. So I'm going to get 170 is equal to C squared. Right? Now the question is, how do we get rid of that squared on the C? What do? Square root, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to take this and we're going to square root around that C squared, and then we're going to square root the 170. Because remember, you got to square root both sides. All right. So now, we did this. Don't forget now, what happens is this square and this square root are going to cancel. They're gone. Okay. Leaving me with just a C. Now, think for a second. What numbers multiply together to give you 170? They got to be the same numbers. Can't think of one. You know why? Because there are no two numbers that multiply together to give us 170. 170 is what with the square root of 170, folks. That's called irrational. It's irrational because two numbers will not multiply together to give us the square root of 170. Okay? And if we were to square root 170, what would happen is that decimal would never end. It would keep going on. Okay? Just infinitely. It would just keep going on. So therefore, it's called irrational. Now, I know that we should put then, if we don't know it, let's just write down the square root of 170 is equal C. It's okay to have a square root as an answer. That's not wrong. Okay? Now, if it's asked to, you got to round it or something like that. Like on our worksheet, if you look, people, it's got this simplified. Okay? It's got this as 100, the square root of 170. It says that it's about 13.0. Okay? About. This little squiggly means about. Okay? So 13.0 is going to equal C. But this answer right here is not wrong. Okay? It's not wrong. Okay? You can have a square root of 170 as an answer. And that's our answer. Okay, so right here, we're going to say that what is side C? Side C is going to equal the square root of 170. All right? That's it. That's all we do. We're using the Pythagorean theorem to find missing sides. Okay? Now, let's do one more just to make sure everybody understands what we're doing. Some of y'all may be thinking, man, this is boring. I know what to do. If so, I'm glad. I'm glad you understand, but there's still some people out there maybe a little bit confused. And one more time, you know, they always say, third time's a charm, so maybe this will make some sense to some folks. So here we go. Let's do one more. Okay. Now, here we go. Try this next one. Look at this. Oh my goodness, this is going to be a big one. Watch. Look at this. Got a big old triangle here. Look at that. Man, that's a nice triangle, isn't it? Got 13 on this side, 6 on this side. What are we missing? Are we missing the A, the B, or the C? Y'all should know by now, right? We got our Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. What do? I put my pencil on the point of the vertex and I draw straight across. And what do we hit when we go straight across? We hit the hypotenuse. And the hypotenuse is always going to be your C. So we're missing C. All right? So which one's A, which one's B? Don't matter. All right, so just pick one. I don't know, just pick one. I pick one. I don't know. I'm going to say the 13 is B just because I want to. And I'm going to say A is 6 because it doesn't matter. C is the only one that has to be the hypotenuse, okay? Now, so let's go ahead. A we said is 6, so I'm going to put 6 squared pluses. B is going to be 13, so I'm going to put 13 squared equal. And we don't know what C is, so I'm going to leave it C squared. Okay? What now? Now, let's go ahead, let's get rid of these squares. What's 6 squared? 6 times 6. And 6 times 6, everybody should know, was 36. Plus 13 squared. 13 times 13. Boy, that might be a little big, but let's think. 13 times 13. If you don't know, work it out. But I'm going to tell you right now, that's 169. Okay? And that's all going to equal C squared. Now, once we do this, now we're going to go ahead. We got to take these two numbers here. We have to add them. 169 plus 36. Here we go. Look at this. 169 plus 36. See, I got to add this stuff up the old way. Oh, I got to add this stuff up the old way, right? 9 plus 6 is 15. Carry the 1. 3 plus 6 is 9. Plus 1 is 10. 1 plus 1 is 2. I got 205. So what I got here, 36 plus 169, I got 205 is all equal to C squared. Now what I'm going to do next, we have to get rid of the square. And the way we get rid of the square, once again, is by using the square root. So here we go. How do I do it? I do it just like this. I'm going to square root the C squared, and I'm going to square root the 205. Now, the square root, going to cancel. I get C is equal to. Now, let's think for a second. Is there a number that multiplies together, they have to be the same, that will equal 205? Nope, I can't think of one, okay? There is not a number that multiplies by itself to equals 205. So we will not get an exact answer for this. So you know what we should do? Let's just leave it as a square root of 205. That's it. And we're done. Square root of 205 equals C. So right up here, where the C is, I'm going to put equals square root of 205. And that's it. We're done. Now, if you noticed, on every one of these, what were we missing? The C. Okay? On Monday, I'm going to tell you what happens when we miss A and B. It's a little bit more difficult, not too bad, but don't worry. Y'all will be able to figure it out because y'all are smart. I know you are. And y'all paid attention, right? All right. So hopefully y'all understood this. Get your work. Get it done. Turn it in. All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time, and I appreciate you all listening. Thank you. Have a great day.